All right, here's a fun fact for you. Norway's sovereign wealth fund is worth over $1.4 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And guess what? Because of that fund, every single Norwegian citizen is technically a millionaire. Meanwhile, here in the US, we've got, well, a whole lot of debt, but that might be about to change. Trump wants to start a sovereign wealth fund for the US, something we've never had before. Is it a brilliant money making move, or is this another too good to be true idea? Let's break it down. What is a sovereign wealth fund? Okay, so imagine the US government has a big savings account, except instead of just sitting there in cash, that money gets invested in things like stocks, bonds, real estate, or even entire companies. A lot of countries have these funds. Norway has one and it's massive. China has several. Even Saudi Arabia has one. Thanks, oil money. These funds help governments grow wealth over time, sort of like a giant investment portfolio for an entire country. So, why doesn't the US have one? Great question. Most sovereign wealth funds start because a country has a big pile of extra money, usually from selling oil, gas, or other valuable resources. But the US, yeah, we don't exactly have that problem. We spend money, we borrow money, but we don't usually have a big fat surplus laying around waiting to be invested. The closest thing we have is state level funds, like Alaska's Permanent Fund, which invests oil revenues and pays residents a dividend every year. But at the national level, nope, never had one. So why now? This is where it gets interesting. Trump just signed an executive order saying, let's make a sovereign wealth fund. The idea? The US could start monetizing government owned assets, think land, natural resources, or even parts of government backed programs and use that money to invest. He's also hinted that this fund could be tied to keeping TikTok in the US. I know, weird twist, but that's what's being said. The broader idea is that instead of just taxing and borrowing, the US government could use investment income to fund government programs, kind of like how a well run retirement account works. All right, let's get to the good stuff, the pros and cons. The pros, it could actually make the US some money. Instead of constantly borrowing, we'd be investing, again, just like a well managed retirement fund. It could fund big projects like buying TikTok or investing in infrastructure, medical research, manufacturing, things we actually need. And finally, it could bring long term financial stability. If managed properly, this could be a generational wealth play, helping America's economy down the road. But there are some pretty big cons or questions too. Like, where's the money going to come from? Again, the US doesn't have a big pile of cash sitting around. Trump has floated the idea of using things like tariffs or monetizing assets, but that's easier said than done. It could also shake up the financial markets. If the government suddenly becomes a huge investor, it could distort the market and create conflicts of interest. And finally, this is the big one, who's going to run this thing? A sovereign wealth fund needs really good management and transparency. If it's mismanaged or politicized, this could turn into a nightmare instead of a financial cushion. So, is this a good idea? Honestly, it depends on how it's set up. If managed well, a sovereign wealth fund could be an incredible way to generate generational wealth. But if it's rushed, poorly managed, or underfunded, it could just be another government project that never quite delivers. What do you think? Is this a genius move, or are we setting ourselves up for trouble? Let me know. That's it for this week. This is Jeannie, the 401k lady.